Hello, I'm doing a book review, and the book I want to review is Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison, not to be confused with the H.G. Wells novel of the same name. Now, I actually first found out about this book through a Stephen King novel, actually. Stephen King makes reference to this book in his novella The Body, which was published in his 1982 collection, Different Seasons. Now, Invisible Man was published in 1952, and a lot of the book deals with a lot of the issues that African Americans were facing at the time the book was published. Now, Invisible Man is set in the 1930s, and it's all told from the point of view of an unnamed narrator who you realize is a young black man from the South who has a gift for public speaking, and in the beginning of the book he makes a speech to a bunch of wealthy white men, but not until after they force him to fight in this humiliating battle where he has to fight all these other young black men in a boxing ring, all blindfolded. But after that, he makes the speech to these men, and they end up giving him money so he can put himself through college. The book then jumps ahead to 3 years later at the college, and the main character of the book ends up getting in some trouble at the college for something that really wasn't his fault, but the president of the college doesn't see it this way, and he ends up getting unofficially expelled from college. Like, basically, the president of the college tells him that he wants him to go find work in New York City, and he gives him what he claims are letters of recommendation, but when he goes to New York City and tries finding work, he's unsuccessful, and he eventually finds out that what he was told were letters of recommendation were actually letters basically telling his employers to not hire him. So, throughout the course of the story, one thing leads to another, and the main character of the book eventually is in Harlem, and he witnesses an old black couple being evicted from their apartment, and he ends up making a speech about how he thinks this is an injustice, and he ends up getting a whole crowd of people worked up, and eventually this ends up getting him in the papers and all that, and he attracts the attention of a group known as the Brotherhood, who are a group of people who claim to be fighting for equal rights between all people regardless of race or gender, and they ask him if he wants to join them. He does join them, but unfortunately he has to give up his identity if he wants to join them, but eventually he becomes a public speaker for the Brotherhood, but eventually he starts running into problems with the Brotherhood because they start accusing him of using the Brotherhood for his own personal gain, but of course it ends up being the opposite. It turns out that they're really using him for their own personal gain. But that's all I want to say about the plot line of Invisible Man. Obviously there's a lot more that happens in this book than what I said, but that's just a basic outline of the plot. But I thought Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison was an excellent book, and I definitely recommend reading this if you haven't already. Now, Invisible Man is definitely a commentary on the ways in which black people were viewed in the early half of the 20th century, but I also feel like the book is also a story about a young man who's trying to find his place in the world, which is something that I think anybody can relate to regardless of race. Like, in the story, everybody's telling the main character who he should be, and even the Brotherhood, who are saying that they're fighting for the same things that the main character believes in, even the Brotherhood make him change his whole identity when he joins them, and even they start using him for their own personal gain. Now, there are a lot of riots that happen in this book, and apparently they're actually based on real-life riots that happened in Harlem back in the 1930s. But once again, I definitely recommend Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison. It's a great social commentary on the issues that black people faced at the time the book takes place, and at the time the book was published, because the book was published in the early 50s, and it's also a really good coming-of-age story as well. So yeah, that's my review on Invisible Man, and bye.